Palantir just keeps getting new deals from all over, but analysts too have been busy on both the buy side and sell side, and honestly, some opinions coming out of these are nothing special in my opinion, as well as many more news items for this week. Now, looking at the stock first, the stock basically ended up flat this week, but for those who watched the daily price action, saw that massive move into the $26 range over a few days, but ultimately falling back down almost 7% on Friday just alone. And I typically only cover the news around the business itself instead of, say, technicals and price action like this. But it's more of just a comment that whenever the stock quote unquote keeps crashing like that, say on Friday, I see folks who almost make it seem like Palantir didn't run up at all this year when we're clearly still healthily still in the 20s. But either way, in the grand scheme of things, it's literally just another single week, and they're still sitting in the range worth over $50 billion by market cap. So I know I'm not making content for that audience specifically, especially traders, but rather those taking a longer term view outside of the daily price action, which more aligns with this channel. But happy to share this info regardless where you stand. Then, Palantir shared on X this joining of the Secure Design Initiative, and that's part of the cybersecurity agent for the US government. The big point here is that they are committed to not only working in the space already that they've been doing, already as part of their work with the government, but in their part of the help in shaping how even other companies might need to change their way of working and designing products, securely as a design point and not an afterthought. Now, business-wise, this could end up being a competitive advantage over time the more they push other companies to adopt this mindset, considering Palantir is already ahead with their products fulfilling this preemptively from all that experience working with the government, so we'll see what happens. Then we've got a big interview on the YouTube channel The Merge, hosting Palantir CTO Shyam Sankar. Now, they focus really strongly on Shyam's background, especially with the government business and how they develop their products to really meet those needs of the US government as a budding customer at the time early on. For those familiar, Shyam is probably the most technical and intimate in knowledge around Palantir's products amongst management, so his unique perspective is always a treat. Now, it's a long run, around more 50 minutes, so I'd recommend to check it out when you have a chance. Then first, earlier this week, we got a couple bullish analysts coming out with their ratings and price targets. First, we got Stephen Guilfoyle increasing his price target to a whopping $31. Now, for those who've been following the company closely, honestly, nothing too groundbreaking or new info-wise about the company came out of this, and that we don't really gain anything as retail investors, but the common themes are still confidence in their government business and stickiness of it, but also their continued endeavors to expand into commercial and making headway there, and still a wait-and-see approach, honestly, because the valuation risk he believes it holds is there for Palantir still. Now, for me personally, this aligns with my view too on Palantir since we're still waiting on these quantitative results, especially around growth, that they will grow into their valuation. But that means there's a risk in decompression if expectations of growth get soft. So we'll continue to monitor that too. Then on the other bullish rating we got is a new initiation of a buy rating and $29 price target. They cited their improving metrics over the past year, especially in terms of their profitability. So no doubt their quickness of achieving GAAP profitability is a plus for many other analysts as well. And they also referenced their growing cash pile, the growth of their defense business, as well as their expansion to commercial in the US. So a lot of the same sentiment as the other analyst rating before. And this is true too also on the valuation side once again, so the volatility is something to look out for. Then on the insider transaction side here really quick, we've got more selling once again. It's from several insiders, but none of the big names that we see like Karp, Thiel, or Sankar, so I guess that's a good news. But one interesting note was one of the insiders, Lauren Statt, who has indirect holdings through her spouse, had some sales as well for their indirect holdings. So that's a little bit out of the ordinary there, but nothing big quantity-wise. And then Kathy Wood, I know you guys like her cover, did her small buy of around 9.7 thousand shares. Nothing crazy, but just shows she continues to buy at these levels in the mid-20s for Palantir. Then we get an interesting NHS article from one of the government officials noting the glacial pace of adoption for the Federated Data Platform, or FDP. Now, we get some juicy details like a little more than 40 pilot locations are expected to get started by July 2024, which is literally right around the corner. Now, how successful it will be is still up in the air, but the main reasonings around the glacial pace appears to be one, just technological legacy system updates and issues to overcome that, but two is the uncertainty around trusting Palantir. So essentially, he said, we've just got to get through this process that they did for the NHS, and it's centered around them. So it's literally just a bite the bullet moment for these pilots. So we'll see if this may create friction down the line here for these people adopting it. But really, it seems to be coming down to culture and just giving it time and playing out. So we'll slowly see what the updates are when we get them and they come out. Then we've got an awesome $19 million deal with the Advanced Research Project Agency for Health, or ARPA-H, for $19 million over 2 years. Now, the kicker for this deal is that this is a newly formed agency to really tackle broad issues around healthcare, and Palantir will be the core infrastructure play that they'll be building around. So even if it's only for 2 years initially, it seems that this can likely lead to a larger deal down the line if things work out and expand. And the purpose of this deal really is to allow data synthesis on the side of the ontology, but also the enablement of using artificial intelligence around these health use cases like strengthening hospital infrastructure against cyber attacks, curing tumors, and a crazy one with health programs powered on electric vehicles. So we'll try to get this to expand into a bigger deal later on, hopefully. Then, on the same day as the ARPA-H deal, a space partnership was announced with Starlab Space. This is a joint venture among many players like Voyager Space, Airbus, Mitsubishi, and MDA Space, adding Palantir into the mix as a strategic partner. And they really are touted as the infrastructure player around the data to help them drive AI analysis to optimize their space architecture. And the whole point here of the digital twin that they're doing is to optimize their resource allocation, mission planning, system planning, and just overall streamlining of any operations of Starlab and the crew. And this deal, like their other space deals, note how diverse Palantir is, not only the more typical use cases, but even handling things on the cutting edge dealing with space like this. Then we've got a new CARP interview out on CNBC. This took place while business leaders met up with politicians around the issues of anti-Semitism and the Israel-Hamas conflict. A very political conversation, of course, and we know CARP's opinions already, and he's very loud spoken about it. So if you're expecting any straight business talk or numbers or just anything like that, then this probably isn't the one for you to watch. And then Palantir, as a deeply mission-driven based organization, fully aligned with the U.S. military's interests, brings no surprises here. So Palantir did post it on their YouTube channel, so feel free to check it out if that's your cup of tea. Now, we've got the downgrade with a lot of folks also attributing this to the heavy down day for Palantir on Friday, almost 7%. Mona's downgraded Palantir from a neutral to sell with a $20 price target. And the reason I think there's nothing really special about the report is basically because it really isn't about Palantir, at least specifically in how their business is running. The main theme from Brian White, the analyst, is that software is going to have a nuclear winter or just general difficult environment in general for everyone, at least for what he sees in the near future, especially around earnings. And he uses other examples like Salesforce and Workday for issuing disappointing outlooks, as well as how that hurt those stocks. And then he also pointed out MongoDB also needing to reduce their guidance, and then further adds more talking points about Oracle on their missed expectations and uninspiring outlook, although their stock didn't get hurt. So basically, he's just saying that since these guys are having a tough time, Palantir will too. So honestly, I don't see anything special about this report, and more than likely just the general macro environment and large recent run-up for Palantir being the bigger factor here for that large fall on Friday, considering they're still a more than $50 billion company at the $23 range, which I think is still quite expensive personally, at least for the stock, but I'll leave it up to you to decide that. So what are your thoughts below on the busy week, and I'll see you in the next video.